Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Opposition Preview Show with me, Tom Green, and our guest for the evening. We've got Dan from RoversChat. Dan, thanks very much for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having us, Tom. I'm looking forward to previewing Saturday's match and looking forward to being back at football as well.
I'm glad to hear you are. I'm not so much at the moment with where Boro are in the league, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we can get that sorted soon. I appreciate for both clubs. It's still early days in the season, though. Blackburn currently 13th in the Championship. What are your thoughts on the season so far? Are you happy with the performance? What were you kind of expecting kind of coming into the season?
Coming into the season was quite worrying, to be honest. We had a really good summer. We got 3 signings in before the start of July, which is unheard of in Blackburn territory, really. We're normally the club that does everything in August and then makes 3 or 4 on that last week. But we got the signings in. Everything seemed really rosy, and then news come out that the owners were having issues with putting money in because of some Indian laws that come into play. Everyone knows we've got the Venkies, still got them. So things kind of took a turn for the worse in terms of expectations. Everyone started worrying. The manager started making hints that they were leaving, which obviously we didn't want. We had a really good year with him last year, and you kind of sit there thinking we finally got football as the focus at Rovers after so many years of it being the ownership, the management, etc. It kind of felt like this year was the year that we're like, right, 46 games of football. We don't have to worry about anything else. And then it's gone back up again because Rovers have started well, 7 points off. I believe it is. We lost to Hull at home when we had 10 men for 75 minutes, and we lost away at Plymouth. And Plymouth fans will probably back me up on this. We lost 3-0, but Rovers could have easily won that game. So a positive start to the season. Not as many points as we'd have liked, but probably what we expected. We probably deserved a bit more, but overall, I think it's still been a good one, especially given how summer went and, all the worries we had.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on what you mentioned about the summer there, because obviously doing my research on it, I think as an outside club, it can maybe be easily overlooked. But reading into the Venki's tax issues and stuff like that, you mentioned you had 3 signings in before July, but did it have much of an effect on team building after that? Was it very much kind of like an incomplete project, or what were you kind of thinking throughout that transfer window after that came to light?
Yeah, it was that feeling that we weren't going to get things done. The manager mentioned many times that the goalposts had moved for the project. That was kind of a constant thing. But we got the deals in. We got a strike on deadline day. Don't know anything about him. He's come from Borussia Mönchengladbach second team. He's just going to be a signing that we either look back end of the year and say, wow, where have we pulled that from? Or it's going to be one that hasn't worked. But we got the players in the end. I think it just moved the plans and the preparations 3 or 4 weeks behind, because our manager's one of them who wants everything done by the first game and he don't want that squad changing. But we also sold our keeper just before the season starts, so that changed plans. But yeah, it definitely changed plans. It definitely made things a bit different.
So just kind of on the subject of that then, like I mentioned, I've been doing my research on Blackburn to kind of even talk about this, but one of the things that had broken pretty much today was the news that you guys had hired a new finance director who was quite close with the Venkies. I'm assuming this is all related to what happened in the summer, but I'm sure you know more than me on it. How do you think this is going to work moving forwards with this new finance director in place?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, really. I'm not 100% on it. I feel it's just a move that has been done to kind of give reassurance to the fans that the owners are still interested, the owners still want to actually invest in the club, because that's been a worry. I think the one thing with the Venkies is we can criticise them with all the issues they've had. They've messed up a lot, but they've always wanted to put the money in, even when the money's gone up each year, they've had to put in. So I think that was just a reassurance that, look, we're still committed to it. We're still going to find a way. Just really finance and probably cut down on the things that can be cut down on. We spend a lot of money on wages. Still, I think they want to cut that down as we go along and try and streamline it and make the squad full of young lads. So, initial thoughts are just, it's a bit of reassurance, but it's also that worry of the unknown. I'm still stuck whether it's actually going to move for us or not.
Be interesting to see how that progresses. We mentioned obviously the summer transfers, and you signed a couple of strikers. One striker you obviously don't have this season is Boro and Diaz, who was the standout player for you guys for a good couple of years. How much of a miss has he been this season? Has there been much of a change in system or formation or anything to accommodate new strikers into it, or is it very much kind of carrying on in the same vein, same system as last season under the manager?
It's a strange one. It really is. We've not actually had a striker that we've seen feature yet. Now Ennis has had 40 minutes but been injured, and they've all been off the bench. Telalovic, who signed on deadline day, is yet to feature. So Rovers have stuck with the same bit. What we've noticed this year, at least the numbers have come out, is that Rovers have had 30 more touches in the box than anyone else. And it shows that we're missing that man to put the ball in the net. I think John Dole's always wanted a striker that can get in behind the defenders, and that's what we brought in. We've just not seen much of it. So we'll probably see more focus on using the striker, Brereton Diaz, because of what he was doing and because he was our goal scorer. It was a focal point. It would get the ball to Brereton, let him go and do what he needed to. I kind of feel it's benefited us a slight bit that now it's not fully focused on this one player. It's the front four, because we usually play two wide men, a striker, and then kind of a central midfielder a bit more advanced. So there's been the negative of kind of that man that you need to pop up with a goal at times. Plymouth, for the prime example, we went through on goal 3 minutes in, only the keeper to beat, and our winger put it wide. And if that's Brereton Diaz, you kind of say that's 1-0. Rovers probably going and win it 2 or 3. So we missed him there, but I think it gives us more freedom for the players that were kind of sat in his shadow last year. It's just whether them players can then step up and get them goals, because obviously his goals are going to be a miss. I think he had 36 over the last 2 seasons he were here, so definitely something we've got to kind of catch up on in terms of goals, but maybe it's a positive because it lets the other lads actually shine and have more of the ball.
Well, speaking of those other lads, who do you think the danger men are going to be for Blackburn against Boro on Saturday? We've spoken about it briefly on the pod. We always kind of have that fear that Sam Gallagher's going to score a worldie from about 30 yards out, and he just seems to love doing it against us. But anyone else we should be looking out for?
Yeah, we're quite with this loss about Indaz, we're quite a well-rounded team. You never know who's going to score the goal. It's been a mix this year. I think we've got about 9 players on 1 or 2, and that's where there's Sammy Smodic is always a threat in behind. He's been getting into positions, and it's just not really fell for him this year in terms of having that ball across the box he can sweep on. So I think that will come for him soon. You'll probably see Ryan Hedges start out wide. He's the player who actually missed at Plymouth, but he's such a hot and cold player. You know, he could turn up and he could run the show against you. He could turn up and have a bit of a bad game. Our better players probably come from deep. I think Adam Wharton in the midfield's a very good, solid player who can find that final pass in behind the defence, which is what we've been trying. Joe Rankin Costello at right back plays like a central midfielder. I think that's one thing Boro will have to watch out for, that you've kind of got this fullback where normally your fullbacks are going down the right-hand side and creating that chance. He comes in the middle and creates it and becomes another midfielder. So probably Adam Wharton and Joe Rankin Costello, which is strange to say after Rovers for years have kind of struggled to be the defensive team and just scored lots of goals. It's kind of flipped this year. So definitely 2 to watch out for there. Joe Rankin Costello's probably your main one.
And on the flip side of things, I mean, it might be actually difficult to pick one at the moment, but from the Boris perspective, is there any of our players that you're not necessarily looking forward to Rovers coming up against this Saturday?
I know the striker you've signed, is it Latte Laugh? I might have butchered his pronunciation.
No, that's spot on.
He seems to carry a threat against, sides. I saw the goal West Brom he scored against.
Yeah.
I think saw him scored there. I think with Boro, so we all sat down before the start of the year and we had you to be up there, but obviously it's not gone so far. We know you're full of talent, and that's what this division's like, isn't it? It's plenty of players. Morgan Rogers isn't there. Is it Barlasser in the midfield as well? You've still got Lewis O'Brien as well.
I mean, Dan Barlasser doesn't get too much game time, to be honest, which might be a surprise for neutrals in the Championship, given what he was like at Rotherham. But whenever he's came into the team, he hasn't really done much to stay in it. It might just be the case that he needs more time. But yeah, you're more than likely going to see him on the bench on Saturday, I would think. But you mentioned Lewis O'Brien there. He came on briefly against QPR and looked bright. Wouldn't surprise me to see him getting in the team this Saturday.
Yeah, he nearly came to Rovers. I'm not sure how many people watching will know, but January we went to sign him and we kind of messed up on the paperwork. And it meant that we missed out on him. We had this big legal battle with the EFL trying to prove them wrong. It was such a mess. So it feels very Rovers-esque that Lewis O'Brien will be the one on Saturday that kind of pulls the strings in midfield, shows us what we missed, and probably ends up scoring the winner and makes it 1-0, but it wouldn't shock me one bit.
I mean, that is probably what would happen if it was the other way around as well. It would be absolute typical Boro if that was to happen. Again, looking ahead to Saturday, where do you think, in terms of formations and stuff, where the game will be won and lost from a Blackburn perspective?
I think that midfield battle's so massive. Rovers win these midfield battles quite a lot this year. We become a bit more combative. We like sitting a bit deeper and picking the ball up and counter-attacking. That's kind of our style. And if we can keep winning that ball back, that's Rovers' best chances. The worst thing for us would be Boro to come and sit back at Ewood. It's the way Rovers can't play. If teams come and do that, we suddenly crumble and we forget how to pass and we lose games. So I think winning that ball back in the midfield when Boro are attacking us, will be massive because Rovers' best chances come from the counter-attack with pacey forwards. We've got forwards that like to move the ball quick. You might see Harry Leonard play as well instead of Sam Gallagher maybe. So, yeah, I think the midfield's going to be a massive one for us. And we have won that in most games. It's just putting the ball in the net that's been such an issue for us this year.
Definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think we're all hoping that after that international break, it can be a bit of a reset in terms of our system and formation. But it does seem to us that the things just aren't clicking at the moment. And it wouldn't surprise me if that midfield battle is where it ends up being crucial for us, especially, really. But yeah, final question ahead of Saturday. If you had to go all out and put a prediction in, what are you thinking?
This could be anything. I sat there, and when I realised it was Boro after the international break, he hadn't started well, I kind of filled with dread. These are the games that I'm sure you're the same with it, but Rovers fans hate playing these teams that have struggled because everyone just seems to put in the performance to life. We went Rotherham last year. Rovers were flying, Rotherham were struggling, and we got beat 4-0. So that sums us up. But if I had to put a prediction out there, because we're at home, I'll go for 2-1 Rovers. I've got to go for Sam Gallagher to get 2 as well, just by the fact that he turns into Haaland when he plays against Boro. I think it'll be a game that's, like I say, won in the midfield. And if we show our clinical side, it wouldn't shock me if we got 3 or 4 goals with the way we've attacked at times. But again, showing that clinical side's the reason we're sat where we are in the table and not up there with Preston and Ipswich.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean there. I think I always do a prediction from my side as well. I'll probably be going 1-1. I'm also backing Sam Gallagher to score. I have a bit of like a running joke on our podcast that I always have a bet builder on. I'm looking for Darragh Lenihan to score. He's not scored for Boro yet, but I always have him on to score and he just never does. That'll be the same this week, but I'll probably be adding Sam Gallagher to score on that as well because I feel like that's nailed on every time he plays us.
That'll hurt a bit if Lenihan scores with he's quite loved here. I hope he doesn't. I hope he has a shocker, to be honest. But it'll be interesting because that game we had up at Middlesbrough last year, obviously, I think was it Leo in charge for you in that game when we come up to your place?
Potentially, yeah.
And then obviously that one at our place when John Buckley got that red card for throwing the ball. So it'll be an interesting battle. We'll see what happens.
We sure will. But yeah, that's everything for today. Thanks again for joining us, Dan.
No, thank you for having us. Really appreciate the invite as well.
Not a problem at all. And thanks again to the listeners and viewers for tuning in. This was your opposition preview show, Up the Boro Breakdown.